the people in his platoon are saying now, he walked off and he left us. That's something that's unforgivable. And, to try to say that he's a scapegoat for something else, or, that we shouldn't blame him, I mean, it's almost ridiculous. I understand that he went through 5 years of captivity, but that wasn't my fault. That was his own fault. He put himself in that position.
With Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth back with you on America's Forum. That's Bowe Bergdahl's platoon mate, Matt Verkant, here on America's Forum at an earlier date, saying that Bowe really only has himself to blame for his capture after he left his platoon back in 2009.
Yeah, but Sergeant Bergdahl's defense team thinks differently, however. They are saying he left for the nearest base so he could report the wrongdoings of his platoon mates.
But those platoon mates are already saying that doesn't make any sense, because the platoon was scheduled to go back to base just hours after Bergdahl disappeared. For the latest on the legal side of these military proceedings, let's call on Boston criminal defense attorney Geoffrey Nathan. So, Jeff, this so-called whistleblower defense that Bowe Bergdahl's defense team is planning, does that have a chance at all to be effective?
Indeed, it does, because what they're doing is turning the tides away from Bowe Bergdahl and splashing waves on the higher command. That's called the command climate defense. And if they execute it properly before a military tribunal consisting of senior enlisted personnel, it really could fly. And when they throw it on the wall and it sticks, Bergdahl could walk.
Really? But what about his troops saying that they were going to go to the forward operating base just hours after his disappearance? Why wouldn't he report this misconduct to them?
Well, you see, when you're operating under what is known in military jargon as a toxic command climate, all the rules of engagement get skewed. And having defended United States soldiers in combat climate myself, I know fully well that when you lay that out to the jury, and if they bite into the defense and chew on it for a while and swallow it, it's going to do well for the defense, and you really can get a guy the justice that he's paying you for.
Geoffrey, former Army Ranger Nicholas Irving was on this program yesterday, and he set forth what he thinks ought to happen to Bowe Bergdahl. Take a listen.
Personally, I think he should face the death penalty. You're looking at 6 soldiers who lost their lives. Many more are wounded soldiers as well. If we can't pursue the death penalty, then how about we get that money back from Bowe Bergdahl that was presented to him for his back pay and give it to the families of the soldiers who were killed?
Is that a possibility, Geoffrey, the money reimbursement?
The money reimbursement is out there as a matter of a sentence when that's finalized. The basis of the charges against Bergdahl aren't that they're chasing him for the dough. They're chasing him to put him either into a cage for the rest of his life, which is possible at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, or, as was said there, to put the death penalty to him. Both of those are more realistic possibilities than the United States Treasury getting reimbursed for what they paid him while he was in Taliban custody.
So, Geoffrey, if you could kind of explain what you foresee happening next based on your experience, because this court system is a little different because it's the military.
It is. Well, what's going to happen is the defense is going to be given an opportunity to waive the Article 32 in exchange for charge considerations. What that means is there's the military equivalent of a grand jury proceeding. Sometimes you can get sentencing or charge consideration, by foregoing the 32, which is sort of a mini trial. But I don't think the defense would be wise to give up the 32 in this particular instance. I would use it as a discovery proceeding, and I wouldn't concede anything at this point, as I was awfully surprised the defense cooperated in the investigation that is now leading to these charges being preferred by the command.
All right. We certainly appreciate that, Geoffrey. And after the break, we're going to talk to Geoffrey about another big case, specifically the Boston bomber trial. Stay with us. There's more ahead on America. Back now on America's Forum with an update from our parent website, Newsmax.com, and it turns out almost as Ken Edelman forecasted a couple of minutes ago. The Iranian nuclear talks will continue in a new phase. So all the dramatic talk about deadline, they said, we've got some time here. We'll keep going on through June. So to be continued. Some might say they're kicking the proverbial nuclear can down the road, but I'll stay away from such imagery. Oh, I guess it's too late.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that. Well, maybe I can get the defense attorney to join us. Geoffrey Nathan is with us. We're switching gears to talk about the Boston bomber trial. The prosecution has rested its case. Now it's time for the defense to make its case.
Yeah, at this point, Ronald, the goal of the defense is to avoid the death penalty. What's also unclear, though, is whether or not the defense will put Tsarnaev on the stand.
And mindful of that, now it's time for our guest. He's been waiting patiently with advice from me and, more seriously, advice about the bombers trial. It's Boston criminal defense attorney Geoffrey Nathan, very kindly staying with us. And he doesn't even have the meter running this morning, at least not to my knowledge. Right, Counselor?
That's right, guy.
So,
Money talk.
Bless your heart. Tell me what is going to happen here. The defense opened its case by filing a motion of dismissal on all charges. Why would they do that?
Yeah, well, that's just a routine protection of the defendant's rights. The motion for required finding of not guilty is in every case in order to ensure, just in case they miss something, they hand the judge an opportunity to dismiss it. But foremost amongst the defense consideration is whether or not Tsarnaev's going to testify, and if so, what's he going to say? And first and foremost, in that regard, the United States government has now paid the defense team, privately paid for millions of dollars of taxpayer money, and that they have got to make the right call now. And the right call, in my mind, is to put him on the stand and have him testify as to the onus that he was operating on, the pressure that his brother put him on, and for two reasons it's going to work. One, the guy's all shot up, okay? He's got nerve damage in his mouth. He doesn't look right. Half of his face is all drooped out, so you're going to get a lot of jury consideration there. Then, once you throw him on the stand with all the consultants that the taxpayer dollars have paid for as well, what's he going to say? And he's going to say, yeah, I did this, but I didn't know how bad it was going to be. I didn't think these things would really go off. I mean, I thought it would just scare people and stuff. I didn't know it was going to produce this kind of mass carnage. I had no intention to do that. And furthermore, my brother made me do it. And then you see what happens. I mean, the worst that can happen is they execute him, right?
Wow. Okay, Geoffrey, maybe I've watched too many Law and Order episodes, but isn't that kind of a risky move, putting him on the stand?
Yes and no. I mean, he's already up against the death penalty, so what's the risk? It's more likely than not he's going to be found guilty because the defense team, with all those millions of dollars that they were paid, for some reason decided to concede guilt. So since they've done that, all they got to do is throw him on the stand. He looks good. He's a nice-looking kid. Maybe a couple of jurors are going to say, you know what, I think he'll just serve a prison sentence. That's good enough for me. And they let him go.
Well, let him go, you mean they don't obviously subject him to the death penalty. That's what you're really looking at. You don't think this guy's going to get sprung on these charges, do you? Or do you?
I mean, look, the one thing about having a jury trial is the government's taking a risk here. I don't care whether or not the defense lawyers concede in their opening argument that he did it, because remember, opening arguments are just that, and the judge is going to instruct the jury that they're not to take the lawyer's statements as evidence. It's simply a roadmap for what's going to happen in the future. So I'm surprised the government didn't take the death penalty off the table, frankly, in exchange for an agreement of a life sentence at a supermax facility, because once you hand your case to the jury, all bets are off. I've had not guilties in cases in which the defendant himself conceded that he was guilty. And so here, all that happened is the lawyers did. So you don't know what the verdict is going to be. Could he walk? Yeah.
Wow. And
yeah, wow.
And 10 seconds. Who's going to win this?
Well, look, I mean, it's more likely not, statistically speaking. In the United States District Court, the government's got a 98.9% conviction rate nationwide, okay? So if that has any bearing on what's going to happen in this matter, this guy is going to get a guilty.
All right, Geoffrey Nathan, we appreciate it. And also those Mr. Spock-like odds of success. That's pretty good, too. Back with Hour 2.